Alright, here's the other stove I mentioned earlier, possibly out of making one of these wedding tins. And just taking a wedding tin and filling it with carbon felt. I even mentioned putting some wire mesh over the top of this so this doesn't get scraped out, but in this circumstance it seems to be okay, so I'm not going to put that over the top of it. I have a little base that I found that it fits really nice onto. Might be worth liquid nailing it down to that, but I think it's better off, not liquid nail, Alumiweld, or JB Weld I should say. I think I'm just going to try it without it and see how much fuel I can put in here. Ooh, that was a little more than I thought I had. It's kind of absorbing it. This was the fuel I took out of that wedding tent earlier, and it actually filled it all the way up. So I don't want to put it all back in because the top of the wedding tin is actually below this lip of this lid, and I think that it will just overflow if I put it all back in. So let's see what it does without all of it in there. Light it up, and we'll put a nice little flame. Looks like it might be able to use a little more fluid in there without any problems because it doesn't seem to be boiling over or anything. And this is just a nice low flame. You're not going to get a big ginormous flame out of this. You want to make sure that you have about 1 inch between the top of your tin in this circumstance and the bottom of your pot. This is a little less than that because these are 1/4 inch, I think. It's close, it's hard to say. I thought about using a bigger pot stand or even changing these out because they have multiple settings, but I kind of like this one, so I'm going to see how it works here. I'm going to bring you guys down so you can see that flame a little better on the bottom of the pan. Well, not with the lights on, we're not going to. So let's turn a few lights out real quick and do this again. Turn off a few of those overhead lights and just let this backlight be enough light for us here for this particular part of it. And you can see we're just lipping at the bottom of that pot right there. It's actually about perfect for this type of stove, height-wise off of the stove. You don't want too much, so I'm guessing that is about 1 inch thin. Those must be 1/2 inch squares. And it looks pretty decent. As the alcohol in the little wedding tin starts to boil a little more, what you will get is you'll get more vaporization of the fumes, and it'll get a little bit taller than that, but not much. That's pretty much how steady they go. With the carbon felt in there, what you do is you actually protect the bottom liquid from the top heat, because that carbon felt blocks some of the heat. And with it being a different lid than base on the wedding tin, the heat doesn't transfer all the way down. It stops at the breaking point between the two. So it makes a nice little stove to take along. However, it does require a separate pot stand in this case. So that's the disadvantage to it. But it's a nice slow stove. And of course, you can see, even the slightest wind will affect it. You would need a windscreen. Alright, I just wanted to show you how that would look. Nothing major. I'll take it apart and show you what the stove looks like a little more before we go too far here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the lights real quick so I can show you that. I can't do a boil test with this one because I actually am using water that I just used previously, and it's still pretty warm, so it would come to a boil rather quickly. So we'll take that off there. And these can get rather hot, so never grab them from the top because that flame lifts out. If you're going to try and grab them from the bottom first. And we'll put this out the same way we put the other one out. However, I don't know if it's going to fit around my outer ring. Just barely fits around it. Just give it a few seconds. Should be out. Leaves all kinds of fumes on the inside of your cup here, so you definitely want to wash that out before you go to use it because you've got methanol fumes in there, which will vaporize back down, devaporize, whatever that's called, and create a nice methane smell to your cup. So you want to wash that out if you're going to use your cup. Let's see how hot this is. Not too bad. it did get a little warm, but not too bad. And it still feels a little bit on the heavier side, so that means there's still some fluid in there, obviously. This little base here is a nice little added feature. I kind of liked it. It gives me the opportunity to do it two different ways, this way or this way. This way would probably transfer more heat back down to the table. Not much, as you can tell I'm already grabbing this. But you might get a ring on the table this way. I would think maybe if you did it this way you wouldn't get as much of a ring because you're raised up a little more. So that's a nice little piece. I don't remember where I got that from. Don't know. Just something I found. So the wedding tins make nice little, and this was originally had the plastic piece in there. What you could do is keep your plastic piece, and I know this sounds crazy, but you could keep your plastic piece in the bottom of all your felt, and I bet you could burn it without melting that plastic piece. You just put it in the bottom down here, and I think I have both of the plastic pieces in this one now. Yeah, I do. If you put that in the bottom, no, sorry. Oh yeah, it does fit down in there. I bet you if you put that in there, it would never melt in there. However, I hadn't thought about this. You're never going to get it out once you get it in. So now I'm going to have to rip it to get it out of there. So, nonetheless, that's not such a good idea. Unless you got a really sharp knife. Then maybe you can poke it and get it out of there. Maybe not, though. You may just ruin it trying to get it out of there. Which, at this point, yes, that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to cut it to get it out of there. So, don't put your plastic lid in the bottom, because you will ruin it. I was thinking it would be a nice added feature to put back on after the fact to keep any moisture from leaking into your pack if you didn't use it all. However, if you had two lids that you took along, you could do that. Use the second lid as a cover lid to keep it from leaking, maybe. But then that leaves this piece of metal, this very, very flimsy piece of metal, loose with nothing holding it in place. You can see I've bent it a couple times, just taking it on and off the thing. It gets very flimsy after it gets hot. So by not being on something, it's very flimsy. And I don't think, no, it wouldn't fit on the bottom. So you really kind of want to leave that on the wedding tin when not being used. Or, stick it on one of your other stoves. Who knows? Maybe it'll do some good. But in this case, probably not. Alright, that's all I have for this video. We'll let you guys go. You can see there's still a little bit of fluid inside there, and it's just kind of vaporizing to the top of it because it's still warm.